If this story touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and let's see how far this story reaches. Your thoughts mean the world to us and help us build a global community of story lovers. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because tomorrow we'll bring you another powerful story, one that might just move you even more. Until then, thank you for being part of this journey. See you in the comments. My ex assumed I couldn't have kids, then realized his son came from another man. It was a golden afternoon in downtown Chicago, the kind where the sunlight dances on every surface and laughter spills from cafe patios onto the sidewalks. Inside a cozy, brick-walled diner tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop, Savannah sat at a corner booth by the window, sipping iced tea and flipping through a novel while waiting for her lunch. It was one of those rare days she had entirely to herself. No school pickups, no work emails, no errands to run. Just peace, quiet, and the comforting hum of strangers around her. She didn't expect her past to walk in and turn her world upside down. As Savannah stood to head toward the restroom, her shoulder brushed against a teenage boy walking briskly past. He offered a polite, "Excuse me, ma'am," and she smiled, murmuring, "No worries." But when she looked up, her breath caught in her throat. Just a few steps behind the boy stood a man, tall, confident, sharply dressed in a navy blazer. His face hadn't changed much, only a few more lines around the eyes, a touch more gray at the temples. It was Logan, her ex-husband, the man she hadn't seen in 16 years. For a moment, they both froze. "Savannah?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper, his expression twisting from surprise to something unreadable. "Yes," she replied, her tone calm but guarded. She straightened her posture, collecting herself. "Hi, Logan. It's been a long time." Before she could process the shock, Logan stepped forward with a smug smile and gestured to the teen beside him. "This is my son, Jace," he said, his voice tinged with pride. "He's a math whiz, just like his mom, Danielle." Savannah nodded politely, her heart steady, her mind racing. Then, the moment that shifted everything happened. A taller boy, lean, with soft brown hair and a kind face, walked toward her. He placed a gentle hand on her arm and said, "Hey, Mom, everything okay?" Savannah turned to him and smiled, her entire face lighting up. "Of course, sweetheart. Just bumped into an old friend." She wrapped her arm around him affectionately and turned back to Logan. "Logan, this is my son, Miles." At the sound of that name, Logan's expression changed. His eyes narrowed, and for a split second, his lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. His gaze shifted to the boy, tall for his age, almost 5'10", with Logan's exact shade of hazel eyes, and then back to Savannah. His composure faltered. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the edge of the table beside him to steady himself. Miles smiled politely at Logan, unaware of the emotional storm brewing in the man's mind. "I'll be at the table, Mom," Miles said, giving her a quick kiss on the cheek before walking away. Savannah looked back at Logan. She knew that look in his eyes. Confusion, disbelief, maybe even fear. He had done the math. Miles was 13, and Logan was wondering if the boy he just met could possibly be his own. Logan couldn't sleep that night. The image of Miles haunted him. His height, the shape of his jaw, the way his eyes squinted ever so slightly when he smiled. There were too many similarities. It wasn't just his imagination. There was no way this was a coincidence. For 16 years, Logan had lived with the belief that Savannah was infertile. It had been the main reason their marriage crumbled. After years of trying and failing to conceive, his frustration grew into resentment. Savannah wanted to seek medical help, but Logan, stubborn and proud, always refused. He came from a large family. He had 5 siblings, and every one of them had kids. To him, the problem had to be her. When they finally divorced, he had walked away convinced she was the issue. And then, just 2 years later, he married Danielle. Shortly after their wedding, she told him she was pregnant with Jace. That moment had solidified his belief that he was fertile, that Savannah had been the problem all along. But now he wasn't so sure. He sat at the edge of his bed, staring into the dark, while Danielle slept peacefully beside him. His mind raced. What if Savannah had been telling the truth all along? What if she'd gotten pregnant right after their divorce and never told him? What if Miles was his son? The next morning, Logan tried to brush it off. Maybe he was overthinking. Maybe he just saw what he wanted to see. But the doubt gnawed at him like a splinter in his brain. At breakfast, Danielle noticed he was quiet, barely touching his coffee. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just work stuff." But it wasn't work. It was that boy. Miles. By lunchtime, Logan was pacing his office, unable to focus. He pulled out his phone and stared at Savannah's number, which he still had saved after all these years. His thumb hovered over the call button. No, not yet. Instead, he started researching fertility tests, quietly, discreetly. He scheduled an IUR appointment with a specialist under a different name. He needed answers before he confronted anyone. That night, he watched Jace from across the dinner table. The kid laughed while showing Danielle a meme on his phone. Logan smiled, but inside something didn't feel right. A voice whispered inside him, "What if Jace isn't even mine?" The thought hit him like a freight train. He remembered how quickly Danielle had gotten pregnant. They hadn't even been married a year. He hadn't questioned it back then. He was just relieved, proud to finally be a father. But now, with everything crashing down around him, Logan realized he didn't just have questions about Savannah and Miles. He had questions about his entire life and whether he was ready or not. The truth was coming. The knock on Savannah's front door came just after sunset. She had just finished cleaning up dinner. Miles was upstairs working on a science project. Blake was folding laundry in the den, and the soft but deliberate knock sent a strange chill down her spine. She dried her hands, walked to the door, and peeked through the window. It was Logan. Her heart skipped. She hadn't heard from him since that awkward encounter at the diner. She'd hoped that was the end of it, that whatever questions he had were buried with the past. But now, seeing him standing on her porch with that same rigid posture and tight jawline she remembered so well, she knew this wasn't just a courtesy call. She opened the door halfway. "Logan," she said, her tone cautious but calm. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," he replied, his voice low, almost pleading. Savannah hesitated, then stepped aside. 10 minutes, she said flatly. They sat at the kitchen table. Savannah crossed her arms while Logan nervously tapped his fingers against the wood. "I saw your son," he began. "Miles." Savannah didn't say a word. Logan leaned forward. "He's 13, right? Tall, smart. He's mine. Isn't he?" Savannah let out a slow, deep breath and gave a soft, incredulous laugh. "Are you seriously here asking me that?" Logan looked stunned. "Savannah, he looks like me. The timing fits. We tried for years to have a baby, and then, what? You get pregnant right after we divorce?" Savannah stood up, grabbed a photo from the counter, and placed it in front of him. It was a family picture. Her, Blake, Miles, and their 2 younger sons, Caleb and Teddy. Blake stood tall with his arms around all 3 boys, his dark eyes and defined cheekbones mirroring theirs perfectly. "That's my husband, Logan," she said firmly. "The man I married a year after you left. Miles is his son. All 3 of them are." Logan stared at the photo, trying to process. "I went to a fertility specialist after we split," Savannah continued. "Turns out there was nothing wrong with me. I was completely healthy. I got pregnant within 4 months of marrying Blake." She narrowed her eyes. "You just couldn't admit that the problem might have been you. You were too proud." Logan's mouth opened, but no words came. The room was thick with silence. Savannah stepped closer. "You built a new life, Logan. So, did I. Don't come here trying to rewrite the past." "But what if I was wrong? About everything," he whispered, more to himself than to her. Savannah stared at him, her voice steady. Then that's your burden to carry. Not mine. And definitely not Miles. She walked to the door, opened it wide. Logan stood, his face pale, his confidence cracked. Goodbye, Logan. As he stepped into the night air, one thing was clear. Savannah had already moved on. But Logan's unraveling had only just begun. Logan couldn't breathe. The words Savannah said kept looping in his mind like a broken record. There was nothing wrong with me. I got pregnant 4 months after we divorced. He didn't remember the drive home. All he knew was the tightness in his chest, the weight of everything crashing down. What if she was telling the truth? What if he'd been wrong this whole time? That night, he sat in the bathroom staring at his reflection under harsh fluorescent light. He looked older than he remembered, tired, hollow. His pride had been the one thing he clung to after his marriage with Savannah fell apart. He had convinced himself she was the broken one. But now the cracks were showing in his story. The next morning, while Danielle took Jace to soccer practice, Logan drove an hour north to a discreet fertility clinic in Evanston. He signed in under a false name and filled out the forms with shaking hands. He didn't want questions. He wanted facts. 2 days later, the results came in, sterile, likely congenital, present since birth. Logan stared at the report like it was written in another language. He read the same sentence over and over again, hoping it would change. It didn't. He wasn't just infertile now. He had always been infertile. There was no chance, none, that he could have fathered a child. And yet, Jace existed, 14 years old. Same smile, same laugh. Or so he thought. He barely slept that night. He kept turning over memories in his head, every detail of the early days with Danielle. They hadn't been married long when she told him she was pregnant. At the time, he'd felt so lucky, so vindicated. But now, the next morning, he confronted her. She was in the kitchen pouring coffee when he laid the test results on the counter without a word. Danielle's hand froze, mid-pour. Her eyes scanned the paper. Her face paled. "Logan," she whispered. He didn't say anything, just waited. Her voice cracked. "There's something I need to tell you." Logan felt like the floor dropped out from under him. "I was seeing someone right before you and I became serious," she said. "It was brief, and it ended before we got engaged. But when I found out I was pregnant, I didn't think it mattered. I didn't know for sure whose he was. And then you just assumed. And I didn't stop you. You let me believe he was mine," Logan said, his voice shaking. "For 14 years. I didn't know how to tell you," she said through tears. "You loved him. You were so proud. I thought maybe it didn't matter." Logan stepped back like he'd been punched in the gut. It mattered. It mattered more than anything. The truth had finally come out, but it wasn't a clean break. It was jagged and bleeding and raw. He wasn't Miles's father. He wasn't Jace's father. So, who was he? And what came next? Logan didn't remember walking out the front door. All he knew was that one moment he was staring at Danielle, tears in her eyes, hands trembling. And the next, he was in his car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. The truth was out, and it had destroyed him. He wasn't Miles's father. He wasn't Jace's father. He wasn't anyone's father. For years, Logan had built his identity around fatherhood, taking pride in coaching Jace's baseball team, helping with school projects, even showing off pictures of him at work. Now, all of that felt like a lie. The life he had curated so carefully had shattered in a single breath. The days that followed were heavy and hollow. Danielle tried to talk to him, but Logan barely responded. He wandered the house like a ghost, no longer knowing where he belonged. Every picture frame of Jace felt like a cruel reminder. Every sound in the house echoed louder than before. But the hardest part wasn't Danielle's betrayal. It was Jace. The boy had no idea. He still called Logan Dad with so much love in his voice. And that was the dagger. Logan still loved him too. Nothing had changed in his heart. But everything had changed in the truth, and Logan didn't know how to reconcile the two. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting gold across the backyard, Jace found Logan sitting alone on the porch steps, staring into nothing. "Dad?" Jace asked. "Are you mad at me?" Logan turned to him, stunned. "What? No, never." "You've been weird lately," Jace said softly. "Like you don't want to talk to me." Logan swallowed hard. His chest ached. "It's not you," he whispered. "It's me. I found out something that really messed with my head." Jace sat beside him, their shoulders barely touching. "Whatever it is, I'm still your kid, right?" Logan didn't answer right away. He looked at Jace, this boy he'd raised, cheered for, laughed with, disciplined, hugged. Biology or not, this was his son. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, kid. You are." That night, Logan stood in front of the bathroom mirror again. But this time, he didn't see a broken man. He saw someone trying to rebuild, not with lies, but with truth. The next day, he sat down with Danielle. "I need time," he said. "Not just from you, but from this life. I don't know what it means yet, but I need space to figure out who I am, outside of everything I thought I was." And for the first time, she didn't try to stop him. Logan packed a small bag, hugged Jace like it was the last time, and got in his car without a destination. Only a direction. He wasn't the man he used to be. But maybe, just maybe, this time, he had a chance to become someone better. This story reminds us that truth, no matter how painful, has the power to transform us. Logan's journey wasn't just about discovering what was real, but about facing himself, his pride, and everything he thought he knew about love, identity, and fatherhood. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where a hidden truth changed everything? Maybe it wasn't as dramatic as Logan's story, but perhaps there was a moment that made you see someone, or yourself, in a completely new light. How did you deal with it? Did it break you or make you stronger? We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. Share your experience, or simply let us know where in the world you're watching from. Whether you're in the US, the Philippines, Nigeria, Brazil, or anywhere else, your voice matters here. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss tomorrow's episode. We have more powerful, emotional journeys coming your way. Now it's your turn. Drop your thoughts below. We're listening.